Hello and welcome to this teach out on augmented reality, where I want to actually show you a couple of augmented reality devices that are available today. So I'll start essentially the way I've structured it. I want to start by showing two augmented reality capable smartphones, and I'll explain what the differences between these are, because there are technological differences. And then in a second round, I would like to bring in a whole set of extensions for smartphones. So these are essentially display wrappers. The phone goes inside them and it turns the phone into a heads-up display. And then in the end, I want to cover HoloLens. On the other side, it's essentially a fully self-contained computer that also goes on the head, and it does not require any smartphone anymore. So to get started, you may have heard about Tango. So Tango is essentially a specification. This is a Tango phone. It is making sure that the phone has additional hardware. In this case, the phone has additional cameras, essentially a depth camera to understand geometry of a room, and a motion camera to understand how the device is moving in space. This used to be a very promising set of technologies, but there's only two devices that are actually supporting this. This Tango idea has been discontinued. Instead, over the last summer, we have seen a new set of technologies for the different mobile platforms. This is an AR core enabled device, the Pixel 2. It does not have any additional camera, so the augmented reality now becomes a software problem. So essentially, the main vendors of mobile phones have figured out ways to understand how a device moves in space just by looking at the small jitter that is happening with my device, and basically creating images from different perspectives and then triangulating them to understand how far away any kind of pixel is that the camera would see. So in other words, this is essentially software-based augmented reality. AR Core and AR Kit are the two kinds of platforms for the different types of mobile devices that we have, and no additional camera required. All right, so this was just smartphone-based AR, and now I want to talk about how we can actually turn a smartphone that is normally handheld into a heads-up or head-worn display. So for that, we have a variety of options that we can choose. So you may have heard of cardboard. So cardboard is literally a display wrapper made of cardboard. The way it opens this way. I've already pre-assembled it a little bit, but it becomes essentially this display wrapper. The phone goes inside here, and you close this up, and you have now two lenses, and these map onto my eyes, and what I now see is a stereoscopic image. So essentially, for each eye, I have a different rendering so that I can perceive depth. This cardboard is essentially known as a virtual reality display. So is Daydream. So Daydream is, in some sense, a little bit more advanced cardboard. It's finer, it has the same idea. The phone goes in here. What comes with it is also a controller. So now I have a pointing device, because what is not possible with virtual reality headsets is essentially pointing in front of the phone, because the phone cannot see anything. This won't work, so instead you use a controller. And this is where I want to make the main difference. Cardboard and Daydream are actually display wrappers for virtual reality. Cardboard is the same, except that it can be modified, which I've done here very cheaply, essentially cut a hole in here so that the camera of the smartphone is exposed. And what I can produce now is a see-through augmented reality interface. So there is also another way, which is essentially a modified cardboard done a little bit better than my version of it. It has an interesting combination of mirrors in there So I'll show you. The phone goes essentially in here. The screen of the phone will be mirrored up this way, and so this becomes a see-through display. Phone goes in here. I have to make sure that the camera is inserted the right way. And then I now have a little bit more advanced augmented reality headset, but the basis is still my phone. So there are also many different kinds of cardboard versions out there. One is this one, which is a little bit more mobile and small. It's still called cardboard. It's actually made of plastic. These are now essentially spectacles that open this way. The smartphone is put in here, so requires a little bit of assembly, but it's relatively fast and easy to do. And now you can just hold it in front of your eyes, and you can produce both a virtual reality experience, or by making use of the camera of the phone, an augmented reality experience. So I want to show you a couple of demos of this heads-up smartphone-based augmented reality experience. Okay, what I've shown you so far is essentially just smartphone-based handheld augmented reality. I've shown you a couple of examples of display holders to turn a smartphone into a head-worn, a wearable display. But these are still smartphone-based. So the last example I want to show you is essentially devices like HoloLens. So these are fully self-contained computing devices, no smartphone required. It is a wearable augmented reality headset. It adjusts to different head sizes and shapes. And you place it on your head, and it has many similarities to some of the previous technologies that I showed you. There are in fact multiple cameras that can track the device and head movement and those kinds of things. There's microphone inbuilt, so you can actually interact with speech. And we also have a first gesture vocabulary where you can actually interact with your hand in front of the display. So I want to show you a couple of examples also using HoloLens. Okay, so this was essentially an overview of mobile and wearable augmented reality devices. We started with smartphones, we put smartphones into display wrappers, and we ended with a fully self-contained computing device like the HoloLens. And well, there are of course lots of differences in the user experience and also limitations of these devices, and I would like to discuss them with you in the discussion forum.